Hello and welcome to today's video. My name is Shelly and I am your inclusion specialist and the principal consultant at Taboshi Inclusive. We are a general inclusion consultancy based in Botswana, the most peaceful country in the whole world. In this channel, we share tips on building inclusive spaces. It could be spaces such as home spaces, such as workplaces or business spaces and events. So this is what we do. We share tips on building or creating inclusive spaces in general. And in today's video, we are going to continue our conversation on inclusion consulting. We started a conversation previously, like recently, and we are just going to simply continue with that conversation that we have already started, with particular focus today on inclusion, on areas of inclusion consulting, areas that you can explore as far as inclusion consulting is concerned. So I'm going to give tips, or I'm going to give advice in terms of areas that you can explore if you want to delve into the inclusion consulting space. Yeah. So before we go into the gist of today's matter, I just want us to wrap up or recap or revisit what we covered previously. Last time we were discussing inclusion consulting. We were looking at it like in general. I was just giving tips in as far as inclusion consulting in general is concerned. And today I just want to look at the key fishes or the key tips that I gave. One, I said that inclusion consulting is all about giving advisory or expertise in the field of disability or special needs support. And then number two is that you need to be thorough or you need to be thoroughly or considerably experienced, and also having academic background in as far as inclusion, in as far as this disability and special needs support is concerned. You need to be thoroughly or considerably experienced and also academically grounded in as far as disability and special needs support is concerned, if you want to be an inclusion and diversity consultant. The third thing is that you also need to be fully abreast. You need to be fully abreast with types of disabilities or special needs plus inclusion matters. Remember that disability is one aspect, special needs is another, and then inclusion is another. So you need not only to be abreast with disability, for instance, you also need to be abreast with disability inclusion. You need to understand what we mean by disability inclusion and how to include people with disabilities. If you are going to act or if you are going to practice as inclusion and diversity consultant. The third thing is that you can be abreast in a specific field in which case it means you are going to be concentrating on that field where you are trained, or you might want to do in general if you have general knowledge or you have general expertise or you have general academic background and as far as disability and or special needs is concerned. And then now we are going to continue. We are going to get into the gist of today's matter, and I just want us to delve straight into today's matter. Today we are going to look at areas of inclusion consulting that are lucrative and that you can explore. Lucrative areas of inclusion for exploration, so to say. And for the purpose of this video, I have classified inclusion in two categories. I have said that inclusion is mainly the main categories of inclusion are two. We have social and economic inclusion. So these are the two that I'm going to concentrate on, so that you understand. Before you go into inclusion consulting, you need to understand what are the categories of inclusion, so that you know which area you want to go, if you want to be specific or if you are limited in terms of your expertise. So we have social inclusion and then we have economic inclusion. And I'm going to unpack these two. Social inclusion is the type of inclusion which deals with our social aspects, like interactions between people or relationship between people. So social inclusion seeks to foster relations among people. It seeks to foster participation of all people. It seeks to foster cooperation among people, like that. So social inclusion, for instance, it will focus on inclusive education. It will focus on inclusive social spaces such as church and families and other setups. It will also focus on inclusion in things like elections and in court cases. So that is what social inclusion deals with. It deals with the relationship of accommodation of people in social settings. Social settings such as schools, social settings such as churches, social settings such as our ordinary homes and families, and social settings such as elections, social settings such as court sessions. So that is what social inclusion is concerned. It's a field on its own, and it's a very lucrative inclusion space that you can explore. Especially if you have done social sciences, you might want to care about inclusion of different aspects of people or a particular group of people, like what some organizations which advocate for certain type of disabilities too. You might want to focus on a specific area of disability, of a specific area of special needs. For instance, you might want to look at the social inclusion of a certain particular of people, like for instance, imagine people in remote areas, or you want to do social inclusion of all people in general. And then the economic inclusion now is the type of inclusion that seeks to accommodate people with special needs in economic matters. In economic matters are bread and butter issues, like issues of food, of survival. And in terms of economic terms, whether you have employment, whether you have a business, whether you are able to work, whether you are able to get your inheritance, whether you are able to get such kind of things that would boost or that would put you at a certain place in terms of economics. So that is another area of inclusion. So it focuses on businesses, whether the people with special needs or people with disabilities are accommodated in the value chain of business, in business value chain. So these people, you might care to consult or to help business include them as customers. You might care to help business include them as anyone in the value chain. You might also work as an economic inclusionist, but you focus more on federals or on governments to help them include people with special needs in their policies or in their acts or in their laws. So at a federal level, you would concentrate more on the policies that government you do, on the schemes that government do, and then you help them to accommodate all people in terms of leadership, in terms of governance. You help organizations, or you advise governments or big organizations to include people with special needs in terms of their policies, in terms of
in terms of their strategy, in terms of their models, their business models, in terms of their laws, in terms of their legislation. So basically at federal stage, you concentrate on policies, you concentrate on laws, you concentrate on such things that the government is concerned with. And at business level, you concentrate on models, you concentrate on strategy, you concentrate on such things. You might want to concentrate on a particular aspect, such as management, business management, or human relations or human resource management in a business setting. So basically that is areas of inclusion that you can explore, and you can see that even as I talk, there is a lot that you can offer in terms of inclusion consultancy concerned. And in the next video is down. I just want to stop that far, and in the next video I will unpack more about social inclusion, who can be a social inclusionist, who can be an economic inclusionist, what are the expertise that you need, what are the academic background that you need. Thank you very much for watching this.